You know, our world is getting more connected every single day. From the thermostat on your wall to the traffic lights on your street, things that used to be just, well, things, are waking up. They're starting to talk to each other. And in this explainer, we're going to dive into both the incredible promise and the hidden dangers of this revolution we call the Internet of Things.
So the engine driving all of this is a concept you've probably heard thrown around, the Internet of Things, or IoT for short. What I love about this visual is how it shows you the whole loop. It's not just about gadgets connecting to gadgets, it's a cycle, right? It starts with a sensor. That sensor collects data. That data gets analyzed, and boom, it delivers real value back to us humans. Okay, so what is it really? Well, in the simplest terms, the IoT is just a giant network of physical objects, your watch, your fridge, your car, that have sensors and software built into them. This lets them connect to the internet and swap data, all without a person having to do anything. It's like we've given a digital voice to the entire physical world around us.
And that digital voice, well, it's creating a whole new universe of possibilities. So first up, let's look at the bright side, the awesome convenience and some of the really powerful ways IoT is already making our lives better.
And this isn't some far-off sci-fi stuff, right? This is happening right now. We've got smart homes where you can control pretty much everything from your phone. In healthcare, you've got wearables tracking our vital signs constantly. Whole cities are using sensors to manage traffic jams. And in dangerous industries, IoT can spot a hazardous leak before it turns into a total disaster.
Now, the scale of this it's just mind-boggling. Predictions say we're going to have over 50 billion of these connected devices really soon. Let that sink in. That's not one device per person. That's several smart things for every single human being on the planet. It just goes to show how deeply this tech is embedding itself into our lives.
But that brings up a pretty serious question, doesn't it? When you have billions of devices out there that are always listening, always watching, always sharing data about us and our world, what's the catch? What could possibly go wrong? Well, this is where that incredible promise starts to run into some serious peril. See, every one of those new connections is like a new door. And unfortunately, not all of those doors are locked. So the first massive problem we have to talk about is security. Because in a world this connected, our security is definitely under threat. So what does that threat actually look like? Well, think of hackers as puppet masters. The very same devices we buy for convenience, a smart security camera, a connected thermostat, they can be hijacked, they can be turned into weapons, and we might not even have a clue it's happening.
And one of the most common ways this goes down is through something called a distributed denial of service attack, or DDoS. Basically, hackers create a giant army of infected, insecure IoT devices. Then they give the command, and that whole army tries to visit a single website all at the exact same time. The site just gets completely overwhelmed with traffic and it crashes. This isn't just a theory either. The famous Mirai botnet attack did exactly this, using things like baby monitors to take down huge sites like Twitter and Netflix.
Okay, so besides being turned into weapons, our devices are also just watching us. And this brings us to the second huge challenge, privacy. If every object around us is collecting data, who's looking at it, and what are they doing with it? Let's take a super common example, a smart doorbell. On the surface, what you see is great. It's a convenient little video of who's at your door. But what you don't see is all the data being vacuumed up in the background. We're talking a detailed timestamp log of every time you come and go, data that can be shared or even sold to build this incredibly detailed profile of your daily life.
And one of our sources really puts it perfectly. It says the IoT system provides substantial personal data in maximum detail, even without the active participation of the user. Think about that. Even when you're not using the device, it's still working, still collecting. The surveillance is passive, it's constant, and a lot of the time, it's completely invisible to us.
So all this data flying around creates our third massive challenge, a legal and regulatory maze. I mean, data doesn't respect borders. So in a world like that, who owns it? Who's in charge of protecting it? And whose laws even apply in the first place?
I mean, just check out the crazy journey one tiny piece of data can take. It might be generated by a device you're using in Spain, then gets stored on a server over in Thailand, then backed up somewhere in Australia, only to be analyzed by an app that's based in the US. This global web makes it almost impossible to figure out who's in charge and how to enforce anyone's rights.
And that leads to a really practical and honestly pretty unsettling question from our source material. Think about your own car for a second. Do you actually have any rights over how the data it generates every single day gets used?
The honest answer right now is that it's incredibly complicated.
Okay, so the challenges are huge. Security, privacy, and governance. It all sounds pretty daunting, I know, but there is a path forward. So for this last part, let's look at the solutions people are working on to build a safer, more trustworthy IoT.
Now, there's no single magic fix here. It's really a mix of different strategies. For one, we need international standards so all these different devices can talk to each other securely. We also need a big shift to something called security by design. That just means building security in from the very beginning, not slapping it on as an afterthought. Devices have to have updatable firmware so companies can patch security holes from afar. And people are even exploring new tech like blockchain, which could create a secure, tamper-proof record of our data.
So, to wrap it all up, we're basically fighting a battle on 4 different fronts. We have to solve the security problem of all these vulnerable devices. We have to tackle the privacy issue of all this hidden data collection. We have to manage the sheer complexity of these gigantic systems. And we've got to fix the compatibility problem, because right now, they don't all speak the same language.
And all of this leaves us with one final big question to think about. The Internet of Things, it offers us amazing convenience. There's no doubt about it. But in return, it asks for a certain amount of control over our data and over our lives. As this tech gets woven even deeper into our world, every one of us is going to have to decide where we draw that line. So, in a connected world, what's your choice?